how are we doing? As you might know, Ali Hazelwood is one of my favorite authors. I think she's my favorite women's author. I read everything she brings out. This is a whole stack of her books. I'm only missing the Love Hypothesis, but this is all of her novels. So I thought something that would be fun is to figure out my definite ranking of these books. Right now they're in the order that they were published in. I will also say at this point that the video is coming out, I know Made is out, I have already read it, but this won't be included in this video. Let's pretend it doesn't exist. Because originally wanted to do this before Made came out. Timing didn't work out, but here we go. This is my collection of Ali Hazelwood books, and as I said, I want to figure out my definite ranking of these books, but I won't just make this video ranking a bunch of books. That's lame. I also thought I'd connect a reading vlog to it because there's a couple of Ali Hazelwood books that I have been wanting to reread for some time, and they also needed a reread to confirm which slot they were gonna fit in. So we're gonna be rereading 3 Ali Hazelwood books, and then at the end I will be ranking all of these, including the Love Hypothesis, not including me. But what I will be rereading for this video are these 3 books. So starting off with Bride. This, for the longest time, I thought this, like for the longest time, since I read it last year, I thought this was my favorite, but I feel like I need to reread it to know for sure. Then we have Love Theoretically. This one I mainly just wanted to reread for the sake of it, because I think I know my spot for this, but just to be sure. And then we have Second Mate, because it is Ali Hazelwood's only YA book, and I legitimately don't remember anything about this book, so I definitely feel like I need to reread it to be able to properly put it into the ranking. So there we go. And yeah, those are the 3 books I read for this video, and let's just get into the vlog. So I started on Bride because this honestly, even though it's the one I read the most recently, is the one I've been itching to reread the most, especially because today, the day I'm filming this, Mate also came out, which is a sequel. So excited to read this, but of course, reading Bride first, and then I'm gonna read this in a different vlog, which you're gonna see after this one, but I'm reading it like as soon as I finish Bride. I will be starting Maids, so it won't be included in this one, but just so you know. Anyway, I am halfway through, and I thought I'd give you an update because I'm still obsessed with this book. So in this book, if you don't know, for some reason, we follow Misery, who is a vampire, and the vampires, like in this world you have vampires, humans, and werewolves, and it's like these 3 like all live separately but in peace, although the peace is strenuous. And how the peace is kept between vampires and humans is through this alliance where every couple of years the vampires send a child to the human world, and the human world will send a child to the vampire world. It's like collateral, so something ever happens, they can kill a kid, and typically also a kid in a high, like to someone high in power. So Misery as a child was a collateral kid, and ever since then she's never really felt like she belonged in the vampire world, so she actually fled to the human world and is living undercover in the human world. When she gets approached by one of her father's like second in command, and it's like, hey, we need you, because turns out there's this new governor for the human section, and she doesn't want to continue on this tradition, obviously. So the vampires are kind of now in dire need to have a new kind of peace bond with the werewolves, and the way they decided that is a marriage of convenience with a new alpha, because there was also a new alpha for the werewolves. And Misery is, you know, in the running to become the bride, and at first she says like, fuck no, you're not doing this to me again, and then she learns the name of this new alpha, and that name is actually a name she has encountered while looking for her missing best friend. So she takes this as the opportunity to infiltrate his business and figure out what actually happened to her best friend. But of course they fall in love because it's a romance, and I'm obsessed with this book. You know, I felt like I had to reread it to establish this as like on the #1 spot, but I really think it might be. That's a fucking love D-band, but like this is good food, you know, it's so good. I edited this the first time around, but I'm of course editing it now again, and the amount of tabs I added, you can definitely tell. Like this is the second half, look at how little tabs are in. This is the first half, how many are there. I added so many. I'm not gonna lie, I love this book so much, and I'm really glad I decided to reread it just to experience that love again. I feel like I don't reread very often nowadays. I feel like as a kid I reread all the time, and part of why I wanted to do this video is to do have an excuse to reread books, because I typically only reread books when I'm like about to read a sequel and I'm like, I don't remember anything about the series. And that definitely isn't the case. I remember the plot of this book, and Mate is a companion novel, so like it's not like I need it. It follows a different couple. I love Misery as a character. I feel like she's so interesting because she's never really felt like she belonged except with her best friend, and now she's missing, and it seems like there's things that her best friend have been keeping from her as well, and it's you know, it's complex, and I really thought that was really interesting, especially as she right now where I'm at, she's kind of finding her place within these werewolves, and it's like a strenuous place, but it is a place, and I think that just makes her character so interesting. And on top of that, she's also just like a typical Ali Hazelwood main character, where she's like very sassy, funny, quirky, you know, having a good time reading from her perspective. But I also love Lo was the alpha, the love interest. I don't know, there's just something about him that he's very kind of like stoic and a bit closed off, but also immediately obsessed with the main character, but like trying not to show it, and I love it. And every chapter starts with like this little I annotated it, but like this little blurb at the top. So it is quite a long one. Typically it's only a couple of sentences that is from Lo's perspective, and then of course the rest of the book is just Misery. And I love this little bit so much. I feel like they're very effective at getting you in Lo's mindset during these moments, but also just not being too much, if that makes sense. Like I don't know, I really like it. I feel like I've never really read a romance that's done it before. Either it's like fully dual POV or it's like not at all. So I really like just having like these little glimpses in what's going on his side. And I also think just the plot is really interesting. There's also some like inner conflict going on in the werewolf world, because of course like Lo is a new alpha, and there's some like hangers on from the previous alpha that don't agree with him being a new alpha, even though he went about things the correct way. So there's like inner conflict there as well. And then obviously we have the mystery of what happened to Misery's best friend, and I think all of those things are really interesting. Even like knowing how that's going to end up, I'm just really like still enthralled and intrigued by those storylines. And of course the romance is everything. Like we at this point we're getting into the good shit, you know, where they're starting to like form this connection, because obviously when they first start interacting there it's like a little bit flawed, because you know vampires and werewolves are enemies, and this whole is like a marriage of convenience thing, so it is a bit flawed in the beginning. And now we're finally going to point of like opening up to each other and like forming this connection, this bond. And I quite literally I'm in one of my favorite scenes right now, where it's also where they're kind of like that it like that connection is starting to become like sensible, like not sensible, starting to become tangible, that's the word. And you're really like feeling the tension between them, and I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I love this book so much. I finished crying. Still 5 star. I still fucking love this. This is my favorite Ali Hazelwood. We've established it now, full ranking coming at the end of the video, but we already established it's my favorite. I love it so much. And it's a specific brand of book that I don't think is going to connect with everyone, and it hasn't connected with everyone. Even of course it's very Ali Hazelwood, so you have to like Ali Hazelwood to like this, but I've seen a lot of like big Ali Hazelwood fans not really connect with this book either. But I feel like you need to also have that perfect mesh of fanfic heart and growing up with paranormal romances like Twilight to also just really enjoy this. And that's exactly why this worked for me. And I don't know, I really like the cast of characters, not just Misery and Lo, but also the side characters. I think are just really compelling. I really like Misery's friendship with Serena. Like we don't get a lot of it because obviously Serena is missing throughout this book, but she does talk about Serena a lot, and they're so precious to me. And then Lo has a younger sister who's raising because their parents have passed away, and they are the most adorable, precious brother, sister, father figure kind of relationship there ever was, and I love it so much. And then the way Misery like falls for Anna before she falls for Lo is kind of interesting, because like Anna keeps pestering her and she's like, you're a little shit and doing it because she just has no connection with kids, but then like very quickly becomes I will kill anyone who looks at you one with Anna, and I just love it so much. And then of course Misery and Lo together also. I really like those are precious, and towards like the end of the book kind of we get more into like the plot stuff, and I also think they're just really fun and interesting and a bit like high drama. And I don't know, I really enjoy this, and I still really enjoyed this the second time around. I still added a lot of sticky tabs to it. I'm so glad I decided to do this reading vlog because I forgot how healing a reread can be for the soul, you know? And Love Theoretically is doing just that. I'm halfway through and I'm loving it, which, you know, I am rereading Five-Star books, so I should have expected that. But I'm just so in love with this book. I forgot about that, so it's a good thing I'm rereading it. But if you don't know, in this book, we follow Elsie, who is an adjunct professor and in theoretical physics. That's kind of like her STEM designation. But she, like an adjunct professor, doesn't really make a lot of money, so she also has a secondary job with this app called Fo, which is like a fake dating app. And basically, if you need like a fake date for one night only, you can request one on this app. And she's one of the people that goes on fake dates, and like for like some extra money. And there was this one guy named Greg who she had this setup with because his family has been kind of like pestering about him being single, so he hires Elsie to be his fake girlfriend, and because she gets along with him really well and is becoming his friend, she breaks the rule and actually like goes to a couple of functions with him instead of just one thing, which is the actual rule of the app, which is fine if it were not for this guy's brother, whose name is Jack, who seems very distrusting of Elsie during these times. But it even comes more ahead because, like I said, she's an adjunct professor, doesn't pay well. She also doesn't like it very much, and now she has gotten the job opportunity at MIT to be a tenure professor. If I'm butchering these terms, I apologize. I don't know anything about this world, but so it's to be on a tenure track. They have a position, and it's between her and another candidate. So she's now in like the interview process of it, and when she starts it, she very quickly realizes that Jack is actually a, also a physicist, but like an experimental physicist, and he is part of this committee that she's interviewing with, which also sucks because it turns out that Jack actually is Jonathan Smith Turner, not just Jack Smith, but Jonathan Smith Turner, who is someone who 15 years ago wrote this like essay, I guess, or this, I don't know what it was, but like this thing, this study, and that got published in one of like the big theoretical physicists and big theoretical physics like magazines, and it was so full of mistakes that kind of, because it got published, it made theoretical physicism kind of like into a joke. So you know, he already doesn't like her because like she went because of this like if he did anything, she's not supposed to disclose like her actual profession, you know, for privacy reasons. So he already is like, wait, you're not a librarian, like been telling my family and my brother, most importantly, because he's very protective of his brother. But then there's also kind of like that added attention of that he kind of ruined her field of study, if that makes sense. And yeah, that's the basic setup for this one. I'm obsessed. I forgot how much I love this book. And like the main reason for it, honestly, is Jack. I think he's my favorite of Ali Hazelwood's love interest, now that I'm actually thinking about it. I don't know. Lucas comes close from Deep End. I also adore him, but I think Jack actually might be number one, because my favorite thing about this book is that Elsie is a massive people pleaser. Like she's very much broken because I got like broken. Like she has always been deemed kind of like not that important, and like people haven't paid that much attention to her. So she's always grown to very much like change her personality to what people want from her in certain situations, and to read people to see what they want from her, which is also why she's so good at like this fake dating thing. And Jack just sees her like as, and is completely utterly obsessed with what he sees. Like he can see through the facades and see who she really is, and is like builds it down perfectly, like to the point where she thinks it's scary because like no one has ever like looked at her that way. And he honestly, like I said, he's obsessed with what he sees. He adores her so much, is in such awe of her, and not just because of who she is as a person, but also who she is as a theoretical physicist, which excuse me, that man is obsessed with your job and obsessed with your brain and just like everything about you, and it just I don't know, something about that just like it hits. And he's also like unabashed about that. Like once I'm gonna, this is a minor spoiler, but once he learns about like the situation between her and his brother, so that that's fake, he just like becomes completely unashamed to tell her how he feels. And it's like, I'm obsessed with you, I adore you, like I don't know what you want from me. Which is, I think is just, I don't know, there's something so like, I don't know, I love it. I feel like it is so uncommon for kind of like, especially with this kind of being a bit of a hate to love situation, except it's not really that hate. I feel like it is so uncommon for any character to kind of like be so unabashedly in their feelings until maybe like the final love confession, but like not, I'm halfway through this book, so it's not like I'm that far. I love it. I do have to say that it is kind of frustrating to see Elsie not pick up on that, and like it makes sense for a character because, you know, what her life has been like up until this point. Like questions constantly when people compliment her, even when it comes to like academic stuff, not just personal stuff. So to have this guy just like unrelentlessly compliment her, yes, it does make sense for her reaction to not believe that, but also it is kind of frustrating because it's like this is not even subtext at this point. You know, in certain moments is where like the main character is like, I'm pretty sure he still hates me, and you're like, girl, it's because it's subtext. But like this man has honestly told her numerous times, like, I I'm enamored by you. Like he's generally said that multiple times, and he continuously compliments her, and it's like, hey, I'm not lying to you. Like I genuinely think about you this way, and it goes into like in-depth confessions about his feelings, and like she still thinks that he hates her. That is a little bit frustrating, but like I said, it does kind of make sense for a character and who she is. I finished Love Theoretically. Obviously, it's a 5-star. I legitimately forgot how obsessed with this I was, and I had such a blast rereading this. This is why I need to reread more for fun. I feel like that's my biggest takeaway from rereading this book, is that I need to reread more for fun. But yeah, the second half of this book definitely delves into kind of more of like questionable things happening within the world of academia, which there is a little author's note at the end, if I can find it, in which Ali Hazelwood kind of explains that that was her goal for this book, to kind of talk more about like the politics and the behind the scenes of academia. And that, I forgot about that, I'm not gonna lie. So that was also a fun thing to delve into, and I think it was executed really well, and in a way that blends really well in the story. Definitely never felt like it was too much. It worked within this story frame, and also therefore makes sense why Elsie just like has to work so much on herself after being like such a people pleaser for so long. It's not just for this romantic relationship, but it was also like this thing where she like has to learn to fight for herself, or otherwise she'll keep getting screwed over, you know. So I really liked how that was executed, how that was done. And yeah, I was swooning by the end of this book. I just really adore the relationship in this, and I'm so glad that we read this. Like I genuinely forgot how good it is. So I'm halfway through Second Mate by Ali Hazelwood, and I have thoughts. So first, gonna give you a synopsis. In this book we follow Mallory, who when she was a kid she was obsessed with chess, and that's like a passion that she was given by her father. But then when she was 14 her father left, and she has never touched the game again because it just kind of put very negative feelings in her. We don't know exactly what happened with the dad, at least not this far. And now, at the start of the book, she's just turned 18, and her friend kind of drags her along to a chess tournament because her friend is in a chess club, and they are missing like one player to be able to actually participate in like this local tournament. So she drags Mallory along, and Mallory's like very against it. But at this tournament, she actually comes to play against Nolan Sawyer, who is the number one in the world. Like, there's a very like chill local thing, and it's like it's to raise money for charity, so it's like nothing really, because I'm gonna so I feel like most people are gonna be like, that seems like unmatched of a pair. It is. That's kind of like the point of the thing. It's not about winning or losing, it's about people participating to raise money for charity, if that makes sense. But she comes against Normal Sawyer, and he's like the number one in the world. He's a child prodigy, has been world champion for years, and he's kind of like disliked within the chess world because they don't think it's fun to play it anymore, considering like he's unbeatable. Like, you can draw with him, but you can't beat him unless he makes a mistake, not because you're so skilled. And then during this game, Mallory actually wins because she's skilled, not because he made a mistake. So that's something that doesn't typically happen. But she, like, in panic, she notices the attention on her, she panics, she runs away from the tournament, and then the next morning the organizer of the tournament actually shows up at a house, and she also runs a chess like organization, and they are having this fellowship where they're sponsoring a young person every year to kind of train and become a professional chess player, hopefully after that year. And they wanna give this fellowship to Mallory, but like I said, she's very against chess. She has very negative emotions experiences with it, so she's at first says no, but then she gets fired at her job, and considering she's the main breadwinner in her family, that's kind of an issue. So eventually, after some talking to her friends and stuff, she decides to take this fellowship with kind of like the one condition that this will just be a job. Like, she's never gonna think about chess outside of business hours. It's a job like any other. But you know, she loves this game, it's in her heart, she can't leave it. And of course, Nolan is a love interest as well, because this is a romance book after all. But I just feel like when it comes to a YA, because it's a YA contemporary, it always focuses a bit more on the main character than the romance. So that's also why the synopsis mainly does that. But yeah, when I originally read it, I gave this 5 stars, but ever since then I've kind of been thinking that this should have actually been a 4, and rereading it now is kind of confirming it to me. Although that being said, the thing I don't remember this book at all, which is why I wanted to reread it. I remember the main gist of the story, but I don't remember much about it. But the main thing I remember about it is loving Nolan and Mallory's kind of like dynamic, not necessarily as a couple, but also just like as friends, and as, you know, they grow closer and everything. And we haven't gotten a whole lot of that just yet, so I am hoping that maybe a second half will convince me of why I originally gave it a 5-star rating, but maybe not. We'll see. Taste can change. But I do have to say that right now it is definitely a 4-star, because I have frustrations with this book, and they all kind of lean on Mallory, because something that frustrates me in this book is just Mallory's family as a whole. Kind of the youngest sibling, like she has 2 siblings, and then it's her mom. That's her family unit. And the youngest sibling, I think, like, is fine. Like, she's young, she's a bit ignorant to some situations, but overall she does actually treat Mallory like you should a sibling. But when it comes to her mom and her older sister, which is still younger than her, like, she's the oldest of the siblings, I just think the way they treat Mallory is just not great. Like I said, she's the main breadwinner, and this happened because around the time her dad left, her mom got this chronic illness, or like is dealing with chronic pain, so she isn't able to do as much anymore. And I have full respect for that, and I do understand that sometimes when things like that happen, kids have to step up a bit more. But what I don't like is that she has basically become the main parent of this household. But mainly why, like, I can understand still all of that to a certain extent if it wasn't for the fact that kind of like the middle sister, I'll say, is such an asshole to Mallory and treats Mallory like a money bank. Like, and whenever she doesn't do something, she's egotistical and like irresponsible, even though like generally the whole weight of this family is on Mallory's back, and that the mom never interferes in those discussions. That grinds my gears. I think that's unforgivable. Like, I don't care, sometimes shit happens and your kid becomes more responsible than they have to. I get that. That can also be very frustrating to read, but it can also be very frustrating to see that happen and not be able to do anything against that. I can understand that. I have sympathy for that. But to see your other kid basically treat that kid like they're useless and a piece of shit, and not like even just say like, dude, shut up to that sister, like nothing at all. Why are we not interfering here? From what I remember, they do gather like, oh, we never knew it was this difficult for you, like, we'll promise we're gonna be fine without you thing. But I want Mallory to leave them all in the dust, generally. Besides the little sister, she's adorable. But yeah, that is something very frustrating to read. And something else I don't really like about Mallory is that she's dumb as rocks. I have to admit that. She's really stupid. The only thing she knows is chess. Like, generally. It's kind of shameful. It's not even that she only cares or knows about things surrounding chess either. It's like she only knows the game. That's the only thing she knows. The only thing, she's like very intelligent when it comes to chess, at least from what I'm understanding about how they're talking about her and how talking about her game and stuff. It seems like she's so incredibly intelligent at chess, but like quite literally anything else, dumb as rocks. It's so frustrating. But so therefore Mallory herself gets on my nerves quite a bit, but that's like my main complaint about the book. It's the family and Mallory. But for the rest, I am liking it. I do think all of the chess stuff is actually quite interesting. I know nothing about the game, like genuinely nothing. I do think what's happening here is interesting. I think it's a very engaging storyline. I really like at this point where I am, we are spending a bit more time with like different side characters like within the chess world, and I really like those characters as well. I also really like Nolan. I think he's kind of cute, but I really still do really like the dynamic between Nolan and Mallory. I do really like the dynamic, even if we haven't gotten a lot of it, and I'm very excited to see that develop. And I definitely think the second half is going to be more up to my speed, considering this is where I presume a lot of character development is going to happen, and it's going to delve a bit more into like the chess stuff and everything. But yeah, so far I definitely have my frustrations with it, so we'll see how it goes. So I just finished Second Mate. Well, I finished it last night, but I'm sad news. I gave it 3 stars. Just not what I was expecting from this. I kind of, all my issues I had with this in the first half didn't really get better in the second. I just think Mallory became even more insufferable. Like, I get it that sometimes a character has to hit rock bottom before, you know, they can grow, but she was so mean and for no reason, and I just was not a fan. And she also did this thing that I hate when characters do, and I feel like most people would class this under miscommunication, but like I wouldn't, because there was no communication at all. But it's, well, like Mallory at certain points like learns some things, so like certain things happen, and they're like very small things, and you could very easily just like go up to that person and talk about it, but instead of doing that, she just makes up this whole scenario in her head and then gets mad as if that were the truth. But if that was that she gets mad as if that was the truth, like she behaves like that's the truth, well, that's just something fanfic, honestly. Just made up shit. And I hate that so much. And that's what happens in this book. And also a thing that I hate in books that has happened is when it turns out conflict, when someone says something that I feel like you can come back from, at least not in a sense where I'm still rooting for you to get together. And that definitely happened in this book as well, where the argument just went a little bit too far in my opinion. So that was just really annoying. So yeah, for me it's a 3-star. I really like the chess stuff. I think that's really interesting. As someone who has 0 interest in chess, I actually thought that element was really interesting. I like the discussion about misogyny in the chess world as well. I think that's really well done. And I do like the romance up until the third eye conflict. I think Nolan is a great love interest, and I think his dynamic with Mallory is kind of good. Like I said, I do think the third eye conflict nukes it, but for the rest, yeah, I didn't hate read this book. Like, I had things that I enjoyed about it, but I also just had so many things that I generally frustrated me. But that means we are getting into the ranking, and this is actually fun. I figured this out much quicker than I thought I would, so I'm gonna thank these rereads for that, because I definitely think I would have a bit more of a debate figuring shit out if that wasn't the case. Like I said in the intro, I won't be ranking Mates. I have already read this. I also filmed my thoughts on this. That will be included in a future reading vlog that you will see coming. I will be doing a fall new releases reading vlog. I read this a lot. I will give you my thoughts on it in there, and then I will also place it in the ranking in there as well. But for now, let's forget about it, and let's rank these books. So I'm gonna start at the bottom. I'm gonna work our way to the top. So at the last place, which might surprise no one with the review I just gave it, is Second Mate. I wasn't a fan of this book. I apologize. I mean, it's still a 3-star. I do have to preface that all of these books, like the lowest is a 3-star, so like I still really enjoyed them, but like comparatively I didn't like it. And then we have Not in Love, which is another 3-star. Unlike Second Mate, there aren't things I actively disliked about this book. I just didn't connect with it the way you should, and I felt like some things felt a bit lackluster, but I didn't actively dislike it at all. That's why it's higher than Second Mate. Then next we have The Love Hypothesis, which is the only book of Ali Hazelwood that I don't own, so you can see it, but that's a 4-star. It's also the only Ali Hazelwood 4-star that I have, so it's a natural placement. Next we have Problematic Summer Romance, which is a 5-star, but a barrel. It just fit that threshold. I feel like this one is the only Ali Hazelwood that had to grow on me while I was reading it, and I really liked it, but it's a 5-star obviously, but it's not like I'm obsessed with it like any of the other ones. Honestly, comparing the tabs, I barely have any tabs in this book, which also just shows that off. And next we have Love on the Brain, which again I do really enjoy, but just like and it has some tropes that I actually really love, very specific ones, but comparatively I love it. I'm not obsessed with it, you know, like the next 3 that are gonna come. because next is Love Theoretically, which I raved about enough in this video. I fucking love this. Jack is still my favorite Ali Hazelwood love interest, but fucking obsessed with this book. So there we go. Then next, and this is actually why I'm glad I reread Bright, because these were up for debate for a while. But second spot goes to Deep End. I love this so much. I think Lucas might be my second favorite Ali Hazelwood love interest, and despite this being more BDSM focused, which isn't typically my thing, I still absolutely thought this relationship was precious, and I again fucking loved it and I'm obsessed with it. So it's a number 2 spot. And then, as you might be able to tell, Bright, which is upside down, Bright is my favorite Ali Hazelwood. I think I made that clear throughout this entire video already. This is just a perfect mix of everything that I love. So it takes the number 1 spot, despite not being able to stand on here, so I have to hold it. So that is my ranking of all the Ali Hazelwood books. Like I said, if you want to know how Mate slots into this, go check out my fall new releases vlog. Once that comes out, I believe it should be the next video after this, but I have not read everything for that yet, so I'm not sure, but it is coming this month, I promise you that. So yeah, that is my official ranking of all Ali Hazelwood books. I think this was so much fun. I'm also really glad I decided to reread these books, just because, as I've said a million times, I don't reread enough. I generally think I should do that more often. I did that a lot as a kid, but I don't really reread a lot now, but it's such a joy to do. So it's kind of fun to also get to do that for a full reading vlog. And yeah, let me know your ranking of Ali Hazelwood books in the comments. I'd actually love to know how other people like who would rank these books. You know, everyone's tastes are so different, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Good.